Hello there, Tom here from the Run Testers. In this video, me and Nick are going to be taking a look at two cushion shoes to be released in 2021 so far, and doing a comparison of what we actually think of those two shoes. The shoes in question are the Nike ZoomX Invincible Flyknit and the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11. Let's see what we thought. So first of all, let's take a look at those all-important stats. The Nike ZoomX Invincible Run Flyknit is going to cost you £159.95 or $180. It weighs in at 286 grams for me in a size 8, which is 10.1 ounces. The women's is 253 grams and that's 8.9 ounces, and the drop is 9 millimeters. The New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V11 it's going to cost you £135 or $149.99. In a size 8, it weighed 259 grams for me, which is 9.1 ounces. For women, that's 230 grams or 8.1 ounces, and the drop is 8 millimeters. We've picked these two shoes because they are both quite heavily cushioned options for daily training miles, and there's a lot of similarities between the two shoes, including the weight, how they feel, and really what both of the shoes are designed to be used for. The ZoomX Invincible is the first shoe of its kind, so there's actually no previous versions of this shoe released, so this is the first time anyone's ever used this shoe. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11 is the 11th version of that range, and it's been around for quite a while, and it's a very, very popular shoe, and we've actually tested some of the previous versions as well. Probably the most important aspect of these two shoes, and the reason why you're probably actually looking for them, is this high stack of cushioning that you get in the midsole of both shoes. And that is, in many ways, a pretty similar stack of cushioning. The ZoomX Invincible's cushioning is made of ZoomX foam, which is a foam used largely in the more performance-based shoes from Nike, like the Vaporfly, the Alphafly, and the Tempo. And it's a very bouncy foam that's really conducive to that kind of fast running, but it's also really, really soft. The 1080 V11 uses Fresh Foam X midsole, which is very similar. It's designed to be soft, it's designed to cushion impact and just make every run really comfortable. The upper on both shoes, also quite similar. The Fresh Foam 1080 has this kind of sock liner design, which is just very stretchy fabric, which is designed to be very comfortable. The ZoomX, it's a little bit more rigid. It's not quite that kind of flexible material that you're getting in the Fresh Foam 1080 V10, and it's a little bit thicker. It feels a little bit more like it's got a firmer feel to it. One big difference between the two shoes, which you'll notice here when you look at the width of the midsole section there, is there's a really wide heel on the Invincible, and that's because ZoomX foam is quite a kind of wobbly, unstable midsole. So to get around that, they've made it really wide, so you have a much firmer base when you're hitting the ground. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, not as wide. Fresh Foam X foam is actually, it's quite a bit sturdier than ZoomX, and it doesn't really need that width at the bottom. Other features of the two shoes, the 1080 V11 has this kind of elf heel section on here to help you pull the shoe on and off. There's a pronounced heel section that sticks out a little bit here, and the idea behind that is that your heel really presses down into the back and you get a nice lockdown fit with the shoe. ZoomX Invincible has a lot of cushioning around the outside of the collar here, an unnecessary amount actually, because it's actually on the outside as well as the inside of the collar. Not quite sure why they've done that. On the outside of the ZoomX Invincible is this quite thick layer of rubber that goes all the way down the shoe, and that's because ZoomX foam is quite a delicate foam, so you've got that to protect that midsole and add a bit of durability to a shoe that's really designed for a lot more miles than what you'd see from the Vaporfly or the Alphafly. The 1080 V11, it doesn't have a full length rubber covering on it. it covers the majority of it, apart from this visible section around the midsole here.
So when it comes to the fit, both of these shoes are true to size for me. The New Balance has this kind of reinforced toe section, which keeps the fabric off the toes a bit at the front. It's a little bit tighter around the sides than the Invincible, but not in an uncomfortable way, I found. So yeah, a nice, comfortable, true to fit size. The Invincible, I am true to size, but it is quite big. It's quite wide and long at the front. Probably could have sized down because I had a reasonably narrow foot, but I was really happy running kind of 80k, 90k in it with my true to size shoe. So yeah, if you're really narrow foot, maybe go half size down in the Invincible, but I was happy true to size in both shoes.
Fit for me for the 1080 V11, it fits true to size. It fits pretty much perfectly for me. What I would say is that I did find it a little bit narrow around the midfoot and a little bit towards the kind of the side of my little toe. And that would be a problem if the upper was made from a rigid material, but because it's made of this sock liner material, you don't really notice it. So even though my toe's pushing out a little bit on the side, it's never been an issue. I've never had any blisters or anything like that. It just fits the foot quite nicely, and I've never had any problems with it. The Invincible for me, again, fits true to size. It is a bigger shoe, and I think Nick says this as well. It's probably, you could probably go half a size down. I definitely didn't need to, but in comparison to the 1080 V11, which fits pretty much perfectly for me, this is a bit of a roomier shoe. So if you've got wider feet, it's probably a nice option, but just worth taking that into account when you're picking a pair up.
When it comes to running, I've actually enjoyed using both shoes a fair amount. The Invincible really is, a soft, cushy ride as you'd expect from all that ZoomX foam. I've done a couple of long efforts. I've done, I think, a 24k and a 30k run in it. Done a lot of easy running, a lot of kind of easy to steady running. So on things like that 30k, I'd start around 420 a k and finish around 345 a k. So kind of 7-minute miles down to 6-minute miles. And it was actually surprising in how well it kind of handled the faster stuff at the end of that. But yeah, a really comfy shoe. At the end of that 30k, I started to have a little bit of harshness under my left forefoot, but I think that's just because I hadn't done the distance for a while. This is very much a very comfortable shoe. Really nice on pure recovery runs as well. New Balance, similar. Like, so it's a slightly firmer ride for sure, even though this feels like a really squishy foam. And I think it's slightly more versatile as a result. I've done some fast stuff in this shoe, and it's kind of easier to pick up the pace now, I think, than the Invincible, even though the Invincible is not a complete slouch of a shoe. It's just that all that squish means you are working a bit harder if you are trying to push the pace a bit, I think. This is probably just a real general workhorse for you. You can do kind of all your training in this, I'd say. It's going to be really durable. I find it really comfortable on longer runs. I think I've gone up to about half marathon in the shoe, and yeah, no problems. You can just pick it up every day, knock out your runs in it, and you don't have any problems. It's not really a bouncy shoe, I'd say. It's more of a smooth kind of ride to it, of kind of a little bit of firmness, push you off your toes. On a pure recovery run, I'd say it's slightly too firm, maybe for my taste, but it's not really a problem. You're just going to get through it, and it's fine. And then it's really good with that extra firmness when you are doing kind of slightly more up-tempo training.
So I've used both of these shoes for about 80 kilometers each, and I've varied my runs between very short recovery runs all the way up to half marathon distance, where I've been trying to maintain a fairly steady pace and attempted to kind of pick up the pace a bit more to see how fast I can go in both of these shoes. Although they're both heavily cushioned shoes, they do feel quite different. I think the main thing that I find with the ZoomX Invincible is that it's really soft. I don't think I've ever tried a shoe that's as soft as this, and you really feel it as you're running along. It just takes that impact and just feels really nice and squishy as you're running. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, it is soft, but it's nowhere near as soft as the Invincible, and it does feel a little bit like you can go a bit faster in it. It feels a little bit like there's a bit more responsiveness to it, and it feels a bit more versatile. So even though they're both cushion shoes, there's quite a big difference between how I would use these shoes and the kind of run that I would get out of both of them. For short recovery runs, this is probably my favourite go-to shoe because it's just so comfortable. If I've done a really hard training session one day and the next day I'm just going out there and I don't care about how fast I'm running, I just want to tick some miles off to really keep my training moving along, this shoe is fantastic for it. The Fresh Foam 1080 V11, it also is really nice for recovery runs, but it's just got a lot more to it. It's not incredibly soft. I don't really notice the softness in the shoe, but over longer distances, it does take a brunt of that impact, and it does feel really good over longer distances. There's definitely a lot of cushioning in there that isn't as noticeable as what you get in the Invincible. When picking up the pace, that's where there's another difference as well, because the Invincible, it's fine. You can run a bit faster in it, but it's really not designed for it. It just doesn't feel great at faster paces, and it just feels a little bit like it feels bouncy. But I think for me, one of the things I noticed with the shoe is that it doesn't feel like it's pushing you forward to go faster. It feels like quite a flat shoe, which means that every run, every step you're taking, it's deadening that impact, and it feels nice. It's pushing you back up, it's helping you go, but it's not really pushing you on to go faster. It's just helping you maintain the leg work and just keeps them moving. But it's definitely not a speed shoe, and I probably wouldn't use it for anything over slow long runs. The 1080 V11, I would use it for faster runs if it was long distance. So I definitely wouldn't use it for a 5k or a 10k race or anything like that. But if I was to run a half marathon or a marathon and my focus was really just get a good time, I'm not going for a PB or something like that, it is probably versatile enough to do that. I've ran 10k races in the 1080 V10, which is actually pretty much identical to this shoe. I can't really find any differences between them. And I've used that shoe to run 10k races in, and they're okay, but when you cross the finish line, you can just tell it just doesn't have, it's not slow, but you definitely won't be able to get a PB in it. It's not designed for that. It's not a fast shoe, but it is versatile enough to pick up the pace and train at a higher speed than you would in the Invincible.
Comes the verdict. So these are both good shoes, and there's a lot of really good kind of easy day workhorse trainers out there. The 1080 is kind of a classic trainer in that mold. You know, it's built for durability, comfort, but still having enough kind of firmness and pace there for a kind of speedier run. It's lighter than the Invincible. It's probably more of a general all-rounder of a shoe while still being very comfortable. The Invincible, to me, really feels like it's built for rotation. Like you'd have this as your easy shoe alongside kind of faster options, especially for racing as well. You could probably push to racing in the 1080, especially kind of half marathon and marathon distance, even if it's not going to have, you know, the explosiveness of a carbon plate shoe. But yeah, although this is probably more versatile than I expected, and you can kind of pick up pace a little bit in it, it really is a base training, easy day shoe, maybe a little bit of tempo running. But yeah, you're going to pair this with another shoe or even another couple of shoes to really round out your rotation. 1080 is more of an all-rounder, especially for kind of newer runners, I think, who aren't really worried about picking up a carbon race or a real speed shoe. This will handle all your training. If you're doing a first marathon, for example, this shoe will carry you through all your training and then race day itself in a really, you know, positive way. So yeah, that's kind of the difference between the shoes. Slightly firmer, maybe more versatile, a bit more of a classic workhorse, likely to be more durable because ZoomX foam isn't always the most durable. Whereas this, yeah, pure squish, comfort, easy day stuff, a little bit slightly faster running, but really, yeah, it's all about enjoying those relaxed runs in the Invincible.
My verdict on both of the shoes, I'm a massive fan of both of these shoes, really. The 1080 V11 is just a great all-rounder that's just very comfortable, does the job. You can use it for lots of different things, and it's just really comfortable. I wouldn't say it particularly excels in any way. It's not the fastest shoe around, but the reason most people like it is just because it's a great shoe to have for all the different types of training you might be doing to a level. The Invincible, I think it's just a really nicely designed cushioned shoe. I really enjoy this when I'm doing recovery runs. I really like it when I'm doing slow, longer runs where I'm not bothered about time. So I think if your focus is just comfort and you're not bothered about getting a PB or anything like that in this shoe, then I think it's just a great, comfortable, cushioned option. If you are looking for, if you're running races but also doing different types of running, so if you've got your recovery runs, if you've got your races, it fits into a rotation, but it's a very specific shoe in a rotation. So I think you'd probably need at least 3 pairs of shoes if this was going to be in your rotation, because it's great for those recovery runs and great for those kind of long, slow runs. But as soon as you start picking up the pace and you might be training for a half marathon and you're doing tempo runs, I probably wouldn't use use this for tempo runs. So yeah, if you're getting this shoe, it's got a pretty specific purpose. But yeah, overall, I think they're both great pairs of shoes. I'd say this one for slow runs, recovery runs, and comfort. This, if you're looking for a one-size-fits-all shoe that, if you've got a rotation, is good for those kind of mid runs, daily runs, or going a bit faster. Or if you just want one pair of shoes to cover you for everything and you're not really bothered about getting super shoes for races or having a recovery shoe, this is a great option for that. And you could probably get away with this for quite some time because it's a pretty durable shoe as well. So that's it from me and Nick. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click that little bell icon, and check out the channel for all the other videos we've got on, from the latest trail shoes, road shoes, to headphones, and all the latest running watches that are coming out at the moment. Thanks a lot for watching. See you soon.